and a decrepit man, lacking in integrity, a man who blighted this country, was launching a book. He was launching a book where he essentially honed up to the crimes that he committed against the Nigerian people and the Nigerian state. A crime that culminated in the ruination of multiple lives, the death and burial of untold numbers in unmarked graves. He didn't tell us, by the way, who killed Dele. Not a word. Please, I haven't seen any from the excerpts that have been flying around with the book that they are deliberately giving away cheaply because it's a bundle of lies. But sat in that room, before talking about those sat in that room, I think it is important that without intending to scandalize anyone, I must draw this parallel quickly. About 2-3 years ago, I ran into some video of members of the family of a dead politician, one of those who was actually murdered by the coupists in the first coup. And his children were celebrating, I think, a memoriam in his honor. But here is where I was. At the point when their father was killed in the first coup, the man was reputed as being the most corrupt of Balewa's ministers. But by the time his children were celebrating his memoriam, he was being celebrated as a great nationalist. This is possible in a society that has failed to document its history, has resorted to a distortion of history. So those who should be examples of reprobates have been nullified, even as the witnesses of that history have died out. So as a society, when you fail to document history, you concede the right to write whatever they care in their hagiographic exercises. So yeah, Babangida can sit down, probably pay some fat cat ghostwriter, tell his story of disservice to a people and to the memories of multiple persons whom he disrespected with his many lies, half-truths, and urban legends. And if we shall fail to take on the duty of preserving our memories and writing our stories, we will yet find that in generations to come, the rogues will be the ones being applauded, and they would have managed to criminalize the saints. The real heroes would have been forgotten. And then in that all, you have what I would call the Mutual Validation Club. One of those, and I'm not talking about written history, I was there as a witness of history. I remember Chief Obasanjo, or shall I say General Obasanjo, in that season, talking about how Abiola was not the Messiah that Nigeria required. And when that Messiah came to power in 1999, stepping on the blood of Abiola, he did nothing to acknowledge the sacrifice of Abiola. He spent 8 years running away from the ghost and shadow of Abiola, and in looking to erase Abiola's memory, he desecrated even the memories of all those who lost their lives in the struggle for the actualization of June 12. The many lies about Abiola began to fly around in those days to justify painting him out and refusing to acknowledge the sacrifice. So the Mutual Validation Club was right there. Obasanjo was in attendance, and there he was, even as Ibrahim Badamashi Babangida was acknowledging what we already all knew. MKO won the election. So what was IDB telling us? Oh, I forget. The Mutual Validation Club was right there. The Jagaban of the universe, who today sits in Aso Rock, a beneficiary of Abiola's sacrifices, was also sat there. Oh, and don't worry, I'm sure Mr. Peter Obi already knows exactly what I think of his attendance at that gathering. Nobody sat in that gathering covered themselves with any glory. It shows a crass lack of sensitivity for those who have suffered and are continuing to suffer as a result of what happened in 1993. IBB will be forever defined by the evil it did on that day, or rather to that day. IBB is busy pontificating and blaming everybody but himself. Gathering of vultures. So let's be clear. All those who gathered there were merely members of a Mutual Validation Club. Ibrahim Babangida told us nothing we didn't know. All he did was what he has always done. Play one end against the other. With one mouth, he was talking about how it wasn't an Igbo. With the same mouth, he was talking about how Awolowo is not a lover of the Igbo people. What does it matter now? Which one is which? After how many dead? What does it matter? We have a duty to remember, because in this land, we're becoming a land of amnesiacs. We remember nothing of consequence, but we also forget nothing that will divide. The Igbo this, Yoruba that, Fulani this, Hausa that, Ijaw that. There is always a reason to believe. There is always a reason. But have you seen them divided in their gathering of vultures? You forget too easily, but they never forget how easy it is to confuse you. They always stick with the script. We owe a debt to those who have died, not to forget. We owe a debt to ourselves who are yet alive, not to forget. We're the sum total of our memories. And when we as a collective forget everything of importance, how do we guide ourselves into our future? We owe a debt to those who have died. Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola is no more today. He can't speak for himself. All the pernicious lies that have been told since his death to justify the annulment of the election, they were barely afterthoughts. I voted in that election. I wasn't a child. I was old enough to vote, and it was the first election in which I voted. All these pernicious accusations came after the fact, just to justify the annulment, to justify what a bunch of ne'er-do-well sat down in a room to do. If he was a drug pusher, why wasn't this in the public space for us to decide whether we wanted a drug pusher or not? That was in the public space in 2023, and it didn't make any difference to the outcome because our choice did not count. The only reason our choice did not count was because it did not in 1993. If our choices had mattered in 1993, they wouldn't have dared 30 years later to tell us to go to court. Let us be clear about that. We have a duty to the dead to remember. Those who died, whether they were active participants in the protests against Babangida, the subsequent ruination under Abacha, everything that followed from June 12, 1993 till date, all the evils that have overtaken this country are traceable to the many actions of Ibrahim Badamashi Babangida before June 12, crystallized on June 12. The ultimate expression of citizenship is the right to choose who leads you. That is the ultimate expression of citizenship. In the absence of the right to choose your leaders, you are not citizens, you are subjects. I expressed my right as a citizen to vote on the 12th of June 1993. That right was taken away from me by a group of thieves led by Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, ably explained away by General Obasanjo, originally resisted by the likes of Bulaba, who are today beneficiaries of that evil, but have all forgotten and are today more repressive than what we all fought at that time. Please, you have a duty to remember. We cannot be the land devoid of memories because your memories guide your future. In the absence of memories of where you have been, how do you remember where you are going? Yorubas will say, "Tomode ba shubu, awowaju, bagbagba ba shubu eyin lo wo." If the youth stumbles, he looks forward. When the elder stumbles, he looks back. The only reason he's looking back is because he wants to know exactly what is it that he just tripped over, given the fact that he's been around the block many times. He should know better. His memory guides him to demand to know why. What is guiding us to demand to know why? Do you really believe that 2023 would have happened if 1993 had not happened? When are you going to make this critical connect? IBB can never repay the debt he owes. Only God will demand recompense of him, because obviously those who have come after him have been even more worse than him. So make no mistake about it. IBB told no truths that were hitherto unknown. And he admitted to the most controversial of all, only in an effort to subjectify every one of the many lies by which he has defined his life. So move on. If you're looking for truth, stop doubting your own memories. Look for truthful accounts of history. Look for those who will tell you the truth. Do not be the land devoid of memories. Be careful where you read your history. Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida is not a witness of truth, and his place in the gallery of rogues is all but assured at his head.